Ma'am, that's enough. You can't order people around like you're the law.
I am the law here. I'm the HOA president. He broke our rules.
The sound of gravel crunching under tires broke the early morning quiet as Ethan Cole backed his truck into the driveway of his new home, a modest brick front house at the end of Cedar Ridge Lane. Quiet, tidy, with oak trees bowing over the road like sentinels. After 22 years serving as a fire captain, Ethan wanted nothing but peace. No alarms, no chaos, just the sound of wind through the trees. He'd been there barely a week when he met her, Margaret Ellison, the self-appointed queen of the Homeowners Association, and she ruled Cedar Ridge like a fiefdom. She appeared one morning as Ethan was trimming his hedges, clipboard in hand, lips pursed tight as if she'd bitten into a lemon. "You're new here," she said flatly. "I'm the HOA president. There are certain expectations in this community." Ethan turned off the trimmer and gave a polite nod. "Good morning to you, too." Her eyes swept over his yard like a scanner. "That mailbox is the wrong color. And your truck," she pointed at the fire engine red pickup. "Commercial vehicles aren't allowed overnight in driveways." Ethan smiled faintly. "It's not commercial, ma'am. Just an old habit. Firefighters love red." She didn't smile back. "Rules are rules. You'll get your first violation by mail." And just like that, she was gone. Ethan exhaled slowly. He'd faced burning buildings, collapsing roofs, and hurricane rescues, but nothing prepared him for an HOA Karen with a clipboard. 2 weeks later, the first notice arrived, bright yellow, taped to his door. Yard noncompliance. Remove non-approved vegetation. It referred to his tomato plants. Ethan laughed under his breath. Guess freedom doesn't grow well in Cedar Ridge. He ignored it, but ignoring Margaret was like ignoring smoke. It only got thicker. Soon, every small thing became a complaint. A flagpole slightly taller than regulation height. A motion light too bright after 9 p.m. Even his retired fire department sticker too aggressive in appearance. Then came the tipping point. One night, as Ethan was reading on his porch, he heard a loud bang. He stepped out to see a teenage boy speeding off in a black sedan. His mailbox lay twisted on the ground, post snapped clean in half. Before he could even take a photo, a voice rang out from across the street. Margaret, bathrobe, slippers, phone in hand. "I saw what you did," she yelled. "You backed into your own mailbox trying to fake vandalism." Ethan stared in disbelief. "Excuse me?" She was already recording. "Everyone, look. The new guy's destroying property for attention." Her voice carried down the street. Curtains twitched. Lights came on. A few neighbors peeked out, phones in hand, hungry for spectacle. Ethan didn't argue. He just sighed, picked up the mailbox, and went inside. But the next morning, a formal citation appeared. Property damage / disorderly conduct. Pending HOA fine. Attached was a photo, the one Margaret had taken. The setup. Ethan drove to the HOA office the next day, a rented space inside a strip mall. A sign on the door read, "Cedar Ridge HOA President, Margaret Ellison." Inside, Margaret sat behind a folding table like a gatekeeper to bureaucracy. "I came to appeal a violation," Ethan said calmly. She smirked. "Appeals must be submitted in writing. But don't bother. I've already forwarded this to our legal team." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Legal team?" She tapped her pen. "My husband's a lawyer." That explained the arrogance. Still, Ethan kept his voice even. "All right, then I'll handle it the right way." When he walked out, he wasn't headed to a lawyer. He went straight to City Hall. Turns out, Cedar Ridge HOA hadn't filed any legal charter renewals for 2 years. Their president's authority? Technically expired. He smiled for the first time in days. The boil point. That weekend, Ethan held a small barbecue, invited a few neighbors, cooked burgers, laughed for the first time since moving in. Halfway through, Margaret stormed across the street with her phone recording. "This is an unauthorized gathering," she barked. "HOA policy limits outdoor parties to 6 people. Ethan glanced around. "Looks like we got 8. Her eyes narrowed. "You think you're funny?" "I think you're trespassing," he replied quietly. She huffed. "I'm documenting a violation." Ethan's friend, a retired police sergeant, stepped forward. "Ma'am, do you have consent to film on private property?" Her mouth fell open. "Excuse me? I'm the HOA president." The sergeant pulled a folded document from his pocket. Ethan had shown him earlier. "Actually, not anymore. Your registration lapsed. You've been issuing fake notices under a dissolved entity." The color drained from her face. Ethan spoke gently, but his words cut sharp. "You've been threatening people with authority. You don't have. That's fraud." Margaret's phone trembled in her hand. "Why, you can't prove that." "Actually," Ethan said, "I can." He pulled out his own phone, screen showing a body cam feed from his porch camera. It captured her teenage grandson knocking down the mailbox that night, laughing, saying, "Grandma would just say it was him." Gasps rippled from the small crowd. Margaret froze. "That's not you can't use." The sergeant interrupted. "That's evidence of property damage and false reporting." Within minutes, a city compliance officer, whom Ethan had quietly invited, walked up the driveway. "Mrs. Ellison," he said, "we need to talk about these unregistered HOA operations and forged notices." Her composure cracked. "It was just community management." "Not according to state law," the officer replied, pulling a citation pad. "Poetic justice." Over the next week, word spread like wildfire. Neighbors who'd once feared Margaret began sharing their own stories, bogus fines, harassment, even threats to tow cars. By the following month, the HOA was officially dissolved by court order. Margaret and her husband were fined for issuing fraudulent legal documents and ordered to pay restitution to residents. Her house went up for sale soon after. The day she moved out, Ethan was watering his lawn. She paused by her car, sunglasses hiding her eyes. "I never meant for it to go that far," she said softly. Ethan didn't look up. "You meant for control. But control's a fire, Margaret. It always burns its owner first." She said nothing, just got in the car and drove off. Epilogue. Months later, the neighborhood was quiet again. No fake notices, no shouting matches. Just laughter from porches and the smell of weekend barbecues. Ethan received a letter from a new city-appointed neighborhood board, thanking him for exposing the corruption. At the bottom, someone had written a handwritten note. "Thank you for restoring peace to Cedar Ridge. You reminded us that calm doesn't mean weak." Ethan smiled, folded the letter, and set on the mantel beside his old fire captain's badge. "Justice served," he murmured. "No flames this time, just truth." And as the sun dipped below the trees, Cedar Ridge finally lived up to its name, peaceful, steady, and still.